Been a great morning. Still a half hour left here on KCMO Talk Radio, but we always want to say hello and welcome on our good friend Nick Haines, Kansas City PBS. He's kind enough to have me on his Week in Review show this week. Of course, it airs tonight at 7:30 on Kansas City PBS as we talk about the top news stories of the week. Nick, I know you've done many events down here at the museum and memorial, so good morning. Great to have you here.
Well, good morning. I love the way you say it's been a great morning, but now we talk to Nick Haines. I'd like to believe we were continuing that good morning. And if we had your budget, we might be able to take our show out to the World War I Museum. It is a great attraction.
Don't get me started on the PBS budget, Nick. That's no. I've seen your brand new. You should see the facilities they've got down there at PBS. My goodness, it is top of the line. Although we've got a great studio too. So you're doing well, Nick. We're doing well. Life is good. Kansas City has a lot going on right now. What do you think? Top story of the week tied to these elections. What are the big takeaways we'll be talking about tonight?
Well, I always think because it's been a few days since the election, it's not what happened, but what happens now. And that's sort of something to think about on both sides of state line. With the loss of the use tax on the Missouri side in Jackson County, of course, a lot of the thoughts are about, oh my goodness, what does that mean now for the stadium leases? And it is this huge bad news this week. Is John Sherman going to be drowning his sorrows as a result of that vote? It's going to make it much harder. But my view on that is there's still plenty of time, and they still have 8 years before those leases expire. And as you're in a museum that honors history, just a very quick trip down memory lane. I remember the last time all of these leases were being negotiated, the concern that the teams were going to leave town. The year was 2014, or 2004 rather. And we had a regional tax on the ballot to upgrade Arrowhead and Kauffman stadiums. It was rejected by everyone other than Jackson County. It goes down in flames. And guess what? 2 years later, they come back with the lease that we have today. So even if something fails, they'll still be back. So I still think there's hope for the Royals and the Chiefs, of course, staying in Kansas City.
So you don't think that John Sherman should be losing any sleep over Jackson County ends apparently having enough of taxes, or do you think there's still issues there the Royals are facing?
Oh, I think that he would certainly be concerned. He will certainly be concerned. The reality is, though, everyone is going to be galvanizing still around making sure these teams stay in town, and something is going to happen. And even if it isn't in April, that will still take place. I was just seeing another story from another city this week talking about the more than 20 big cities in America that don't have a Major League Baseball team, from Charlotte to Indianapolis, San Antonio, and Nashville, for instance. And you can see that will put pressure on our city and county leaders, regardless of what they're saying now, to come forward to make sure that these teams don't leave to go to one of these other cities who would definitely crave one of these teams.
Yeah, that's going to definitely be the story to watch now that these off-year elections are over. Now, on the other side of the state line, Nick, Johnson County, the Democrats in Johnson County, or at least the candidates that the Johnson County Democrats endorsed, I think they won like 60-some-odd% of their races. With the recent election trends, Sharice Davids has won 3 elections in a row now. Do we call Johnson County blue, or what's going on?
I think we do. We color it blue. Every cycle it has seen since Sharice Davids was elected to Congress, it's okay, she's going to be ousted next time. That was a blip because Donald Trump is on the ballot. Well, he's not been on the ballot for a while, and she still gets reelected, and it gets reelected by an increasingly larger margin. These votes in Johnson County this week, I think, solidifies all of that. She could certainly be celebrating this week, even though she wasn't on the ballot. There aren't any other big races, though, in Kansas in the next election cycle next year. We haven't got any U.S. Senate or governor's races or big statewide races. So she's probably the only one that we will see a big change for.
That's a good point. She's the only one, really. So then, you look up in Wyandotte County, Republicans had some smaller wins up there, school boards and city councils and things like that. What do you read into that, if anything?
Well, there are two things happening in Wyandotte County, and we've been reading all of those stories, of course, about, they may be declaring bankruptcy by the time the World Cup comes to town in 2026. They are out of money. They want to change the form of government. There's a lot of unhappiness. They have the highest property taxes in the state of Kansas, which many people don't realize. And the housing is a huge issue. The discontent over what's happening in the eastern part of the older parts of the county in Kansas City, Kansas, where they're seeing all that growth in western Wyandotte County with the legends and so forth. So that is a backlash against that, and that I think is why you see Republicans doing far better in what has become a very dysfunctional time in Wyandotte County.
Yeah, that's a good point. Nick Haines, Kansas City PBS, is joining us on KCMO. He's having me on his show tonight, Week in Review. Does a tremendous job with that, airing at 7:30 this evening on Kansas City PBS. So, Nick, when you look at some of the other issues around the region that we'll be talking about tonight, Kansas City in particular, Quentin Lucas, he's coming off the trip to Germany. He kind of endorsed, and I asked you about this earlier in the week, I think. He kind of endorsed some Johnson County Democrats, then he deleted the post. What do we make of what the mayor of Kansas City did on Tuesday?
Yeah, it's interesting. Again, he wants to be the sort of regional mayor. He's not secretly, I believe, running for Kansas governor next time around to replace Laura Kelly. His residency is still there. It's interesting how people are looking at this. One thing was is he now mapping out a way to show he's helping Democrats in other parts of the area to show that he is a good team player, and that would make him more likely to join the Biden administration or the Democratic National Committee, because he is now term limited. But I will say we had one eagle-eyed viewer say, look at the jacket he was wearing at Frankfurt with all of those guests. And he was wearing a zip-up jacket with a DOJ, Department of Justice, logo on it. Some people I got people calling me, he might be heading to the Department of Justice, just as he's also launching this new fentanyl campaign, which the Department of Justice calls the most deadliest, drug threat in the history of the country.
Wow, I didn't see that. Gosh, he posts so many pictures and selfies, I couldn't keep track of all of them. But that's very compelling stuff. A DOJ jacket from Mayor Lucas.
Viewers. Yes.
Well, I know that firsthand because I hear from them after I go on your show, and they are very observant, and they're very smart as well. It's a smart audience. They pay attention to what every single one of us are saying. All right, so...
and I'm sorry we didn't have time to talk about Travis Kelce being People Magazine's sexiest athlete in the galaxy. I know that probably is going to be a big component of your next segment.
Well, I'm still upset it wasn't you, Nick Haines. It really should have been you. At least sexiest man in Kansas City. I mean, come on. You got to be kidding me.
Yes.
Well,
and the other story, of course, you campaigning to get a lifetime contract as lucrative as what Bill Self, the KU coach, got this week. If only I had that opportunity, but that's you.
Well, you can be my agent. I'll cut you in on 10% of that, Nick. It might come close to the salary you've got right now, but I think if I cut you in on 10% of the $10 million Bill Self is making, we'll both do pretty well. Good deal?
Okay, yes. We'll get new Kansas City PBS mugs on our desk with that.
That's right. I could even take one home. That would be great. Oh, he is Nick Haines. Hey, Nick, I love having you on. We'll be watching tonight, and have a great weekend. Thanks for being here.
Hey, thank you for having me. Great weekend, everyone.
All right, Nick Haines on KCMO Talk Radio. Absolutely outstanding.